What up, world? It's Mack. Tell me something slick and make it stick. Yes, sir. You goddamn right. I did it again. You right. We are back again for the third goddamn time. And you know what? I'm gonna tell you something. It's only a few things that's good that gets better the third time. Rocky 3, Creed 3, Bad Boys 3, and now Cigar Chats, Mack and B. Cox, the state of hip hop, the trilogy. We're back again. B. Cox in the building. How you feeling, baby?
Hey, man, brother Mack, I appreciate you for having me back for the third time on Cigar Chats with Mack. I really do appreciate it, man. I appreciate the love that you've given me to allow me to come on and speak my shit and talk about some good topics. Of course, all about hip hop music. And want to give it a shout out, of course, to your audience, to your fans, man. All of y'all out there showing love to Mack and to me. Whether you agree with our takes or disagree with our takes, I'm all about good discussion, man. You give us another viewpoint, we'll definitely look at it and consider it, man. But I definitely appreciate all y'all out there for showing me love and showing Mack love for this great series we've put out, man. And I had to come back and do it again. My brother asked me, I wasn't going to say no. So here we are teed up, man. We're going to go ahead and get it started.
Well, y'all heard it there. Go get your damn drinks. Hey, I got my shit. Me and B. Cox gonna take y'all asses all over America. I'm telling you now. We covering all fucking regions. So get ready. Hey, get your cigars or whatever else you want to feel to get nice. We'll be back in a sec because we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Sir. Welcome back, everyone. Well, just to kind of update you, man, B. Cox, I'm going to say again, man, you are a musical savant, a hip-hop historian. Brother, I give you your cigars behind the scenes. I tell you, I give you the feedback all as I'm getting it real time, man. And I have never heard a person. I've said a few people maybe here and there didn't agree with everything. Well, everybody didn't like Jesus. Oh, God dog it. But the problem is, but the thing is this: nobody can ever say that man right there, he don't know his damn music. So, man, you truly, brother, man, are truly a virtuoso when it comes to music, man. Honor to have you again, brother.
Hey, man, I appreciate, man, all the kind words. And the only thing I do, you set the table, man. The only thing I do is eat. That's it. You know what I'm saying? You setting the table and serving the meal. The only thing I'm doing is eating right now. I'm doing really the easiest part. You know, that's because I can talk about this stuff in my sleep. And I don't say that as a means to big myself up, man. That's just how much I love this music, bro. You know, music when it comes to especially the eras that we're talking about, like you feel shit with this music, bro. And anybody who comes up in those years, you call your formative years, can tell you when it comes to when you go back to any person from any era, you go back to talk about that music from those years. Ooh. They'll have the same reaction no matter what era you're talking about, what genre of music you're talking about, what background that they have. It doesn't matter whether they're talking about rock, whether it's classic rock or classic jazz or the blues or soul or gospel, reggae, ska, whatever. It doesn't matter. But when you talk about that time period of people's lives, man, it means something. And so for me, when I tell you that I remember like it was yesterday, that's because those memories are very fresh and vivid in my mind like it was yesterday. And the music served as the soundtrack towards that. So when I think about these moments in time, I'm always have an artist, a song, a beat, an album connected towards what that memory is in life for me during those years.
Wow. Well, hey, sir, as we always do, I just throw alley-oops and I let you go. I'll let you tear the rim down. Okay. Big Cox, let's get into it now. Since the last time we talked, it was kind of bubbling our last chat, but we didn't really address it. We talked about another controversial guy. Well, since then, we got to address this. Because let's talk about, but let's not obviously go into the sexy part of being a prisoner of the moment. Let's kind of take it back, man. Let's go back from a nostalgic purpose and how this individual, he really was, you know, a part of, he gave us the zeitgeist of our youth, our younger years, his soundtrack, his company, and all the things. And we talked about one of his flagship artists last time. But you gotta give Sean Puffy Combs, from a musical standpoint, he contributed a lot to the culture, which makes this so hard and egregious thing he did to just like, man, not you. You was such a great ambassador for the culture. So, because let's take it from the rise and the fall, man, of Diddy and Bad Boy Records, and I'll let you kind of go into it and enter and exit it however you choose. Sir.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the rise, look at what the rise was, man. Look at how he made his bones. We'll start even, you know, from what I know, my frame of reference was him being at Howard. And the early stories you hear about Diddy at Howard throwing parties. My sister was a student at Howard during that time when he was throwing parties and when he was a student at Howard. Now, obviously, he was really, really good at that. Probably not so good at so many other things, but a lot of these folks who are like Diddy, when they do things like that, they tend to be able to get off the track. When they see success, they're going to get it and they're going to run with it.
Okay.
So he leaves Howard, goes back home to New York, you know, kind of works in promoting, then finds a way to be able to do the internship, and then gets hired by the late, great Andre Harrell and Uptown Records, becomes an A&R for them. So what does he do as an A&R and eventually a producer for Uptown Records? Well, he's very instrumental in finding two acts that were very instrumental in our generations and generation before us youths, and Jodeci and Mary J. Blige.
Yes, sir.
And what really that era of R&B helped usher in was R&B that didn't necessarily have to be, I don't know, let's say sweet and sappy, and it had a hip hop feel to it, but it was still really R&B. It wasn't R&B trying to be rap. It was still really great R&B music. The music from a standpoint in regards to production, composition, quality was bar none. And a lot of these records, Diddy himself wasn't producing the records, but like we talked about Dr. Dre in one of our last cigar chats. What is he? He's like the executive chef at a restaurant. Now, you may not necessarily, you can go on and do a little something on the grill or on the line, but if you can get the best damn person cooking a steak, making a baked potato, making pasta, doing that dessert, you got yourself a perfectly cooked meal, because you got the best of whoever is doing it right there in the kitchen doing it for you. And you're looking at the plate, you're making sure everything looks good before it goes out, and that standards and qualities are right there as well.
Yes, sir.
So with the emergence of Mary J, and also with Jodeci during that time period, right around 91, 92.
Yeah, man.
You had an era of R&B that was ushered in really when you start going into late 92 and then 93, 94, that was the direction that R&B music was going into, right?
Yes,
now, we're not going to say that obviously they were the ones who started this movement. Obviously, this is in the midst of also a New Jack Swing. And during this period, New Jack Swing was kind of on the downslope and on its way out popularly. So there had to be something that was as popular as New Jack Swing that could have some staying power, considering how big hip hop was becoming. And he found a way to be able to, not just through the music, but then through the imaging of both of those artists as well. I mean, you look at the way that Mary dressed and the way that Jodeci dressed. They didn't dress like R&B singers, you know? They didn't, but they had style, they had swagger, they had relatability. And in the case of Jodeci, with their main audience demographic being women, they had a certain sex appeal about them, right?
Correct.
And with Mary, when you saw her and listened to her, everybody kind of looked at Mary and saw somebody from around their way or like her, you know?
Yep.
And so his genius was being able to get the people together and the formula together to have those two artists blow up as big as they did. And then from that point on, the writing was kind of on the wall. When you break two artists like that, production wise, lead the effort as an A&R and a producer. There's only but so much you can do being in a pond with a guy like Andre Harrell at Uptown. So what happens? Andre and Sean can't be king of the same jungle, as Diddy said in the Notorious movie. He had to go, and he goes, looks for his own opportunities, trying to get a distribution deal, wants to start his own label, is getting acts, finding acts, and is able to land in what lands in his lap is the matter of someone like Craig Mack, and then eventually Notorious B.I.G. You know, then the domino effect of all the different things coming into place of the different artists that would join his label over the next 3 to 4 years, which would leave a legacy and also an impact on the culture as well. I mean, not just the people who weren't signed to Bad Boy that were just affiliated, the Junior Mafias with Lil C's and Lil Kim, the signing of and the singers being there to continue that legacy of R&B, hip hop, soul, being Faith and Total, and eventually 112. Then also being able to find an artist like Mace that gave you something a little bit different. And everybody didn't stay along for the ride along this way. Everybody knows. Biggie's death, Craig Mack leaving the label. Eventually everybody moves on after a certain point in time.
That's true.
I mean, Mace left, but what Diddy did, not just with the artist that he had, and I said everything was about making sure that you serve as that executive chef, right? And yeah, he was on the records saying a lot of ad libs and stuff like that, but he kind of knew what worked. When you're a party promoter and you know what people like, his key was being able to understand that if you get him on the radio and you get him in a club, you got him, right? If you get him in the radio and you get him in the club, then you got him. And so that was his meal ticket. So having put all that together, and then after tragically losing his biggest artist on his label, having the label not even 4 to 5 years old at that point. Damn. He steps up and decides to become a featured artist himself, which I kind of feel like always was on the cards. Eventually, him coming out with his own album, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, people was writing his rhymes for him. They were producing the tracks and stuff for him. But with the music, the stuff that he had, it worked. What he did worked for him. Nobody was ever lauding Diddy as one of the best hip hop artists and MCs out there. No, he was strictly an entertainer. What he sold was entertainment. What he sold is,
he did that.
I'm gonna make you groove. I'm gonna make you dance. I'm gonna make you feel good. And that was his selling proposition. And he took that and folded it into so many different other things, businesses, brands aligned with his businesses. And even as he lost artists, he still continued to thrive and kind of was always in the center of the culture, even when he began to expand outside of the culture and the other, like the fashion world and the business world. He was always kind of at his core, always hip hop, no matter what.
Yes, sir.
And the one thing that I will respect about him is that he never went outside of that circle and forgot who he was, even if he became big time, right? But he was always going to make sure that he was rooted inside of what his roots were, and that was in hip hop music. So we give Diddy his flowers for that, no doubt. Now, on the other things, of course, when we talk about the fall, what made Diddy great is probably also what led to his downfall as well. And this is even before the allegations we're talking about with the lawsuit with Cassie, the things that have come out now recently about these allegations and the video that we all unfortunately had to see. But there had been stories and sort of smoke in the air about the way that he was even back in the 90s. There had been rumors about how the way he had been abusive towards people and, had a badass attitude and he had a temper. We all know what the club incident with him and J-Lo happened up that landed Sean in jail for however many years. There was, obviously a lot of, we look at what the history is of artists on his label and what they do immediately after they leave. Craig Mack
turned to a preacher.
Yeah. And now it's gone. Biggie, Say No More. You know, Mace was here. Then all of a sudden he leaves and decides to enroll in college and then becomes a preacher as well. Decides to try to become a preacher as well.
Right.
Toto was with Diddy for a while, had 2 really good albums on Bad Boy, and then they split and they left. 112. 2, 3 really, really good albums.
Really good album.
And now let's hold on. So this is the one thing I say that when it comes to Bad Boy, that one of the most underappreciated aspects of what Bad Boy did was 112. And how people, and I feel like they caught it kind of get undersold because of the era, right? Because they were in that era with Drew Hill, they were in that era with Jagged Edge, you know, and I think people started to undersell them. I tell a lot of folks, man, 112's debut album, I put up against either one of those debut albums or a few albums in their discography. Like, it was phenomenally produced, right? Phenomenally produced. But after 112, after that third album, and they left, it was, you know, things kind of went to, you know, it hell in a handbasket for them as well. Then we can get down to the G-Daps. G-Dap just got released from prison this year. Okay.
Shit, he been gone about 15 damn years. How long his ass been gone?
Sean did a bid in prison for Biggie, eventually became Jewish, and now is I don't know if he's the prime minister of Belize or
he's something.
Government official of Belize.
He's a government official Belize. Some states
and senior government official in Belize, where his family is from. It's just crazy when you look at what has happened to folks, but he always maintained, you know, his spot. He was always on top. And then now, all of a sudden, he decides to give everyone back their publishing.
After it ain't worth nothing, though. It ain't worth shit, though.
Oh, no, that Biggie's catalog is worth something.
Oh, that Biggie. Well, he didn't get that one back, did he? Did he get that back to
He gave that one to his kids.
Okay.
I think he gave it back to his kids. Okay. But he gave his artists back their publishing, whatever he did that he owed them. Okay. Finally. You know? But there have been talks about, I mean, shoot, I have been hearing the rumors of people by folks from New York about Diddy and his sexual proclivities.
Man.
For years. It's been out there on the periphery. You've been willing to pay attention. It's been out there. So when these stories came out about Diddy, I was not that surprised. And then the whole thing about Cassie, when that came out, I kind of been thinking that was what was going on because they was together for way too long and nothing was happening. They wasn't married. They weren't none of that. And then when the shit came out in the lawsuit, I'm like, damn, this shit is bad. And as bad as it is, it's actually not that unbelievable considering all the stuff that I've heard about him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens to guys like Diddy when you become a billionaire, and this is important to know, when you get to that status of becoming a billionaire and you become arrogant, the fall is that much more spectacular when you think you unfuckwittable.
Ooh, you said something there. You gotta say that one more time.
When you become a billionaire and you're a black man at that,
please throw that in there.
The fall is that much more spectacular when you think you're unfuckwittable because of your money and power. And nonetheless, let's not fake the funk here. For those of y'all who don't know what's going on, white America is going to make sure they know you fall on your ass and how hard you fell on your ass when eventually you do. Because Diddy literally has been telling them to kiss his ass for the last 25 years because he can afford to do so.
Correct.
But once the stuff came out about the allegations, man, and they, like, dude said on OJ, what Made in America documentary, he said it's about OJ. It applies to Diddy. All them folks in corporate America that was willing to sit with Diddy because he made them money, they was like, once you do some stuff like that, they will zip your nigga suit up on you real quick and leave you hanging.
Zoop, put that nigga suit on you real quick.
I mean, look at all the deals he lost, man.
Yeah.
I mean, so was it worth it? I'm pretty sure he would say yes. But, you know, what I will say this is I will appreciate what he helped to bring, the era and the memories that he gave me and my generation. Absolutely. It doesn't excuse anything that he's done, but he definitely played a pivotal role in helping to shape the soundtrack of that part of many of our lives by the artists that he helped bring to the forefront. He gave people opportunities, and no matter whether he did them wrong or didn't do them, you know, or did them right, he did it. You know?
Right. Well said, B. Cox. Well said. I'll just ended up on this note. My only thing was this: I will never take away his contributions to the culture, what he did, what he gave us. My only thing is this: to all those people, them women that were around him, they knew that shit was going on. The other people that were around him knew that shit was going on. Don't say shit now, because you knew damn well it had been going on. So all I'm saying now you want to talk, you want to say something now.
Yeah,
no, that shit been going on. So hey, but anyway, Malcolm X said the roosters, man. The chickens always come home. They come home to roost, man.
Yeah.
So hey, them goddamn chickens come on and they roosting like a motherfucker, and that's all I'm gonna say about his ass.
100%. 100%.
Because we on the East Coast, man. Hey, man, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So fuck it. We on the East Coast right now. I want to stay right there in New York, but I'm gonna go. That was now in the same era. That was the shiny part of this era. That was the shiny part. The suits, the opulence, the wealth, all that. Diddy and them ushered that in. I get all of that.
Yeah,
but I want to go with some grit. Yeah. I want to go with a guy that I feel does not still get his recognition in the pantheon of great artists. And me and B. Cox are gonna try to figure out how he somehow gets forgotten. I mean, he might not be top 5, but he goddamn well better be in that damn top 10 somewhere, because what he did, and people forget on his unfortunate ending, how huge of a star Earl DMX Simmons was. And Cox, my question to you is, I line this up for you. What do you think his legacy was, and what do you think it is, and what do you think it should be?
His legacy, I mean, it's crazy. It's been about 3 years now. His legacy is this, man. It's perseverance. It's a story of perseverance, right? You have to talk about where he came from, what he had to endure to make it to what he had, even if it was for a very brief period of time. His legacy is pain, right? It's pain. And it's really one of like maybe I would say between 2 to 5 rappers all time that can genuinely, accurately, and I would say genuinely, accurately, and almost make you physically feel their pain through their music, right? What it was they were going through. Wow. Another one's on the agenda later on today, and we'll get to them.
Yes, sir.
It was Glory. The fact that at his top, as you mentioned, and I said this when he died, I said, yo, if you were not around and alive, doesn't matter whether you were outside or on the front porch, right? Because that was my on the front porch stages. I wasn't quite outside yet. Okay. But I was on the front porch, right?
Yes, sir.
Being as though that I was in high school during those years. If you were not around in 1998, it's almost hard for me to explain to someone who wasn't around to tell you how big of a star he was. He was almost a bigger star than anybody else you think about during that time who was out, who's still around and doing music, even somewhat. Yes, bigger than Jay-Z.
Yep. Come on, Big Cox. Bigger than Jay-Z. Thank you.
Yeah. Bigger. The Glory. Survival of the Illest tour, one of the best tours that we had seen in hip-hop, not just in the 90s, but of all time. That really helped to rejuvenate Def Jam in that late 90s run. But then it's the downfall, right? The struggles that he had after that run that pretty much ends around 03, 04, that we saw him run into his issues, his problems, the drug addictions, the arrests, the mental health issues, the depression, all those things that we had seen with DMX as we saw through those last, I would say, decade and a half or so of his life. And then it was a comeback. It was sort of like we saw him have a downfall, and then we were also able to appreciate him in the later years once he started making more appearances on the Breakfast Club, other interviews, the verse he had with Snoop, all that things. We began to appreciate him again. And then when all that stuff happened, it was like he was gone. So what DMX's legacy is excellence. While not being necessarily super technical with his rhyme, but a supreme lyricist without a shadow of a doubt.
Come on now.
A top 5 performer in hip hop. I mean, on stage performer in hip hop of all time. Top 5. These in your top 5. If he's not, then you got something wrong with you. Name 6 other performers better than him all time. You can't. It was the emotion, the relatability, the pain, the glory, the downfall of the comeback. It was all at the same time a great success story and a cautionary tale all at the same time is what it was, what DMX was. It really is something when you think to study about it, what he overcame to reach the heights that he did, and then eventually him losing it all and then being gone so soon when you felt like he had a lot more to give, at least to contribute to the culture and give us. So that's what his legacy is. It is. And the hits that he had during those times. We talk about one of few rappers that have released 2 albums within a calendar year, and both of them have been #1. And the other one, Tupac, 1996, DMX, 1998. To release an album, then which came out, which was #1 on Billboard. And for a guy who didn't have a lot of club hits, his biggest song was a club hit. You never would have think would have come from a guy like DMX, right?
Party up in here.
And then to do that and then to see the downfall was a little bit depressing because to be able to experience that in that moment is kind of hard to describe, man. That energy from the performance, whether it was on stage and you were there to see it live or you watched it on a television screen or you watch it on YouTube. I mean, that clip that you see from Woodstock in 99 is still something that I can't even fathom being able to do that to a crowd that's there. I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable. So that's what his legacy. It's all those things wrapped into one. It's a complicated legacy too. It's a very complicated legacy as well.
You know, B. Cox well said as always, when I think about DMX, man, it's a amalgamation of a lot of emotions. You know, you're happy, you're sad because you feel cheated because he was such a wise guy. Like once he started doing these interviews, you heard DMX's wisdom. He like, damn, he's really an insightful dude. You know, sometimes that scruff, you wouldn't think that type of insight was there, but then you felt that he had a higher calling. He was the one artist, and I always loved and appreciate him for this. He wasn't scared to pray and always acknowledge God and let his spirituality be known and say, hey, I'm fighting demons just like y'all, but I'm going to always give it up to God no matter what. I will always love and appreciate DMX for that.
And those prayers, man. The prayers is what resonated with the hood dudes who knew God but didn't openly say it, but knew that there was somebody out there that knew it and wanted to, that if I was going to pray to God, this is how I pray to him, right?
Come on.
And the last line of the first poem he did on his Dark and Hell is Hot is lines that I think speak as a pretty much what the motto of his life is going to be. So if it takes for me to suffer, for my brothers to see the light,
Lord,
give me pain till I die. But please, Lord, treat him right.
Man, on that note right there, we're gonna have to leave DMX longer, man. That'll get me emotional.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna stay right there in Def Jam, but we're gonna go down the hall a little bit. Now, this guy, a lot of people, I don't care what you say, you're not gonna take away the boy had some bangers, and whether hood niggas wanna admit it or not, you was bobbing your head to some of these boys' hooks. Because if he wasn't, your girls definitely would. The girls definitely was.
Yeah.
He got caught in between Jay-Z and X.
Yeah.
He kind of, people said he tried to sound like X when he's like, I can't really do that. This is my voice. But I'm not the shiny, rich, baller type dude Jay-Z is. But what you're not gonna do is say Jeffrey Atkins, Ja Rule did make some goddamn hits. And here's the thing, B. Cox, let's talk about his forgotten influence on the game, because he got a lot of flack for coming out singing and being melodic and all of those things.
Yeah.
And you can't turn on hip hop now, and all these niggas is singing now, man. Yeah. So let's talk about his forgotten influence.
Man, you know what? It's a shame that whatever happened, and we know what happened. I mean, if you watched the Murder Inc. story on BT, you've seen hip hop documentary, you've seen the beef stuff, you know what the story is and why this happens. But for those of y'all who don't know, we'll kind of go through it. Ja Rule, it's a shame to me that people tend to forget his run that he had from when he dropped in 99 until 04, 05. And not just his run, but Murder Inc.'s run as well from during that time period. Because what they did was help to craft a sound that was unique to their own, led by Ja, obviously, but then other artists that were on the label as well. And they had some hits that could stand up with any outfit during that time. And if you put the resume up there, it's kind of hard for me to explain if you weren't there outside during that time. Now, during this time, I was outside, right? I was outside because these are my college years when Ja Rule was dropping his hits, man. Just to talk about what is, and yeah, Mack is right. People would have clowned or whatever the melodic scene trying to be gruff. Every thug needs a lady. But I tell you what, that verses he had against Fat Joe, and when you hear his songs amongst a certain group in the club or day party, wherever out, damned if everybody ain't singing that joint. Girls and guys.
Talk to him, B. Cox.
I mean, he had the formula down right, no matter how much y'all want to clown him. And it's the cool thing to do once you get a dude like 50, who's a clown prince of hip hop, right? Who wants to clown and troll people and everything else. And he was great at doing that. But when you get into the actual run that they were in, bruh, I'm just going to talk and say a few of these singles. Just a few of them.
Talk your shit.
Beyond just the lead single with Holla Holla, Between Me and You with Christina Milian. Put it on Me with Lil Mo and Vita. I Cry with Lil Mo. Living It Up with Case. Always On Time with Ashanti. Then we got Down Ass Bitch with Charlie Baltimore. Then the remix, Down Ass Chick with Ashanti, Vita, and Charlie Baltimore.
Come on now.
Thug Lovin', Mesmerize, Wonderful, New York, Caught Up. I mean, I'm running through some singles right here that were absolutely huge hits, and they were big in the club and in the party.
Come on now.
And no matter how much people wanted to say whether they like Ja Rule or like Murder Inc. or whatever,
give it down.
Like the proof is in the pudding. You know, I was there. And yes, we talk about, okay, there's certain things, you know, there was a certain point in time when we talked to radio superiority. Jay and Ja Rule like this and this.
Man.
Now, people may look, you like B. Cox, you telling a goddamn lie. You mean to tell me that Ja Rule and I'm not making an equivalency between the two of them and their greatness as artists, right? As MCs, lyrical. I'm talking about on the radio. Jay and Ja Rule like this and this during that time. 2000, 2001, 2002. They're like right here.
Yes, sir.
Again, if you weren't there, it's hard for me to explain. It's something that I cannot really tell to. It's like you'd have to go back and look at them damn charts, and you could look at it, right, and show and ask anybody who was around during that time. I mean, we're talking about hits. Then we're not even just talking about the stuff that he was directly on. Murder Inc. brings in Ashanti. She blows up in 02. Brings on Lloyd 2 years later. He blows up around 03, 04, 05.
Yeah, he did.
You know?
Yeah, he did.
Vita, lots of great features on the Murder Inc. songs. Irv Gotti, for as much of stuff as people want to clown him for the Drink Champs interview and the stuff how basically him still being obsessed with Ashanti and the man was obsessed with her. He was married and had families and shit and everything. His chops as a businessman and a producer are something that can't be discounted during this run as well.
Okay.
So,
Talk about
Ja Rule, man. He really set the table for Murder Inc. to really eat during that 5-year period, like 99 to 04. Now, this is the unfortunate part about this.
Talk to him.
The unfortunate part is this. Somehow the phenomenon of 50 Cent getting signed to Aftermath, Shady Aftermath, Get Rich or Die Trying dropping and becoming one of the biggest debut albums of all time, and G Unit dropping all the same year, with Get Rich or Die Trying and G Unit's album being a direct aim at Ja Rule, Irv Gotti, and Murder Inc.'s head, that landed so perfectly that it killed all the momentum. Because at that point, it's like, by the end of 03, people were like, nigga, you still listening to Ja Rule, Murder Inc., nigga? Like,
I think it would look at you Aggie like, bro, what the fuck wrong with you? Put that shit
right.
on.
Exactly. It was seemingly forgotten. So when we talk about Ja Rule and his run, we tend to forget that because the fall of it was so bad because of how viciously 50 Cent came back after him. But people have to understand the machine that 50 had behind him. Ooh. He had the biggest rapper commercially, the biggest rapper in the game behind him.
Come on now.
One of the biggest and best producers of all time, hip-hop producers of all time.
Master Chef.
I mean, if you don't have the cachet of 50 Cent and you don't come out on top, something's wrong, right? Now, Get Rich or Die Trying is still an amazing album. It's incredible. As a matter of fact, as I was telling people, it's another one of those moments when you talk about you having to be there to understand just how big it was. That's one of those moments as well. But unfortunately, Ja kind of got caught up in the mix, and people forgot about him because of that. But then years later, when we hear those songs, man, those songs are still undeniable hits, man. And then not only that, let's go to the flip side of the coin about 50 and all this shit.
Let's go with it.
50 kind of got all the stuff he used to kind of clown Ja Rule about. By the
time he do the shit?
He was doing the same shit.
Hey, B-Cox, did this nigga start singing on records and shit?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So man, big man. I'm talking about it was music that was good in the car. It was music that was good at what if they had day parties back then, day parties, and it was huge. Ja Rule definitely needed to get his props, and Murder Inc. needs to get their props for the hits they gave us, man. I mean, that versus lets you know that shit has staying power amongst a certain group of folks, man. And even for those who are a little bit younger than that, they even remember it.
Come on,
that's a true testament about whether or not something's going to last or not. When you can last that long for that big of an audience.
You said that the first chat, B-Cox. B-Cox, stay right there. Let me ask you something though. Now you bring up an interesting thing. 50 Cent just opposed to Ja Rule. If you really want to be fair and unbiased, who has really the most hit records? I ain't talking about the album. We know he made a monster, Get Rich and Die Trying, and I know his second one was solid.
Yeah,
he don't have the greatest goddamn discography now, people.
Yeah.
So my thing is, if they did a versus, I think Ja Rule could cook his ass, man, over with you talking about the volume of hits.
There's an argument to be made, but then people also have to understand, man, that G Unit run from 03 to 07 was big too. So if Murder Inc.'s big run was 99 to 04, G Unit's run from 03 to 07 was pretty goddamn big. From Get Rich or Die Trying to Curtis, it was pretty damn big. So if we start talking about comparing really between Ja Rule and 50, if we're putting it in the format 20 songs, I'll put it to you this. People might think that 50 might cook Ja Rule, but I'm going to say this. It'll be a whole lot goddamn closer than you think. It'll actually be, I would say, similar to the same way that people thought that Gucci would cook Jeezy in his verses. And Jeezy got in his pocket between motherfucking Thug Motivation 101 all the way up to Recession. And all he had to do was stay in that. And he held Gucci off and cooked his ass in more than a few rounds because of how big those songs were.
Okay.
Not just about the volume of the work that Gucci did. It was about how big those songs during that time were. So that's the reason why I would say it would be a lot closer.
Okay.
If we talked about with Ja Rule and 50, because 50 has some big hits too. You start bringing in the G Unit hits as well. We got a battle going on. But if you bring Ja Rule and then his Murder Inc. hits that he was on that he wasn't necessarily on his album, we got a battle going on. So what I'm saying is it'll be a pretty goddamn close and a lot closer than some of y'all actually think. It would be.
Ooh. Well, there it is. Where there it is. Because I would love to say, I'm with you, man. It'll go 12 rounds. It would not. He gonna take them to the mid. Your point, the seismic records, those big ass records, 50 Cent. It's hard to top that shit, man. It's hard to get past that to Curtis, that run. I give you that.
Yeah.
But Ja Rule got he got them uppercuts that's going, he gonna constantly hit you with the uppercuts, man.
Well, what Ja got is the Party in the Club records, especially during that early part of his run. That's going to be undeniable that would get the crowd on his side, man. 50 got some club records as well, but what 50 got on his side is mostly those album tracks and those deep cuts that people have made that have become classic now and they've become cult classics, as a matter of fact. So yeah, it would be a lot closer than I think a lot of y'all would think, for real.
Good stuff, Because well said. Because before we catch a flight to the Midwest, man, I'm gonna ask you something. We got to catch a flight to the Midwest. Matter of fact, my hometown, Chicago, coming up next.
Yes, sir.
But before we get on flight to the Chi, what could have happened with Dipset, man? Had everything kind of had the whole Rockefeller thing never fell out. You know, where do you place? Because Cameron is by far the most sarcastic goddamn rapper of all time. But I actually like his sarcastic, arrogant ass. I've always had a soft spot for Cameron's arrogant talk. So he's the most shit talking, arrogant, but I like him though. I've always liked Killer Cam. I can't front on that, man. And I like Jules. I like Jimmy. I liked all them Dipset boys.
Yeah.
What would have happened had that shit not just went debunked and people start going separate ways?
Yeah, separate ways. I mean, they could have had a run, man. And I feel like Dipset had their niche where they had a few lanes carved out where they had some hits that were big enough to make the whole crew some money. But the problem is that things get in the way, man. Everybody wants to be king. You know, had Cam and Jim been able to handle their differences with each other, had, you know, the crew been able to stay consistent, you know, had they utilized players like J.R. Ryder and 40 Cal correctly, you know, because I feel like they got seriously underutilized when they actually became a part of Dipset. Really, seriously like we used to marvel at some of the underground stuff and mixtape of J.R. Ryder and be like, man, this dude about to be a problem, man. And then he just wasn't. I don't feel like he was utilized properly with Dipset, 40 Cal either. And Hell Rel. I mean, there's a lot of different other things you can put out there. They had a nice little run with Cam's albums, with Diplomatic Immunity, with Jim Jones, Poem. You know, I mean, these were great moments, right? They had a very, very loyal niche fan base that could keep them running. And they had enough hits out there that could keep them in people's consciousness as well. The problem was, to me, I think, was inconsistency in the effort. And then eventually the egos, I think, sort of getting in the way as well. And really, Cam and Jim were the ones who were driving the bus at that time. I mean, Joel's had a little bit of potential because he had some presence with him. But again, it's the whole thing about consistency. Really, Cam and Jim were the ones driving the bus. But once the two of them started beefing with each other, things getting in the way, it was over. It was over. Like, I kind of feel like the downfall of Rockefeller also aided in this as well, because you had loyalty split. Who's going to side with Jay? Who's going to side with Dame? Dipset and them sided with Dame because that's their homeboy from Harlem, right?
Correct.
I mean, they had some dope albums collectively as a group. Dope albums of individuals that I named, all the folks that I said, and stuff that wasn't necessarily classics, but things that were like, damn, man, that shit was actually all right, you know? And they had some radio hits, but it just wasn't enough, right? Because I kind of feel like I would like to see Kanye do some more work for him like he did during the early days. That kind of fell off as well. You would want to see them be able to be a little bit more consistent, because they had some pieces there, man. As a collective, they had some pieces that would be ready to cook, Matt. But when you start getting that large of a group of folks together, man, damn egos getting in the way, man, will fuck shit up. And that's what happened, I think, with them. Now, they reunited eventually, man. But the thing is about when you lose momentum like that,
it's hard to get it back, because
it's hard to get it back, man. It's hard. Yeah.
Man, Cam is always, man, I appreciate Cam because he was always the one to show love to Shy, man. One thing about Cam, he was one of the first New York rappers to realize it's some fly cool shit outside of New York, man. So he always gave, I'm on the west side of Chicago looking for a bus down.
Yeah.
Got both hands up. Touchdown. I said, go ahead, Cam.
Yeah.
So, man, I've always had a lot of love for Cam, man. And like I said, I love Jimmy, man, as well, man. Ballin' was a huge record, man.
Ballin' was, unbelievably big.
Man. Yeah.
Unbelievably big.
Absolutely, brother. So shout out to the Dipset, man. I'm glad all them brothers are doing well now, man. I'm glad Cam and Mace, all them boys doing good.
Yeah, they got cooked in the verses though, but you know.
They cooked with the big cut.
Famously cooked in the verses.
I mean, Jada and them didn't have to do them like that bad. Like,
yeah.
That,
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. They catalog couldn't anyway.
Nah, I couldn't.
We digress. Because before we leave New York, man, we about to board the plane.
Yeah.
Can you just really touch? Because when we leave New York, we're gone.
Yeah.
Can you just touch on Griselda really quick
Mhm.
about the movement? Man, that damn Conway, man. Man, that
Yeah.
damn Conway, man. That damn Conway, something slick with them words. The
Yeah.
butcher coming.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Just touch on them Griselda boys really quick, man, as we get ready to board the plane, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, I got a late pass on Griselda because I didn't find out about him till like 18, 19.
Me
And
too.
this was out of
Late
Bun-
too. Yeah.
this is off Benny the Plugs that I met. My boy was hyping. I'm like, yo, Benny the Butcher, you gotta listen to this joint. You gotta listen to him. And so I started doing a deep dive on him, man. And I was just blown away by the content of what I heard and how grimy it was. Now, let me just say this. I knew a couple of my homeboys in college that were from Buffalo, right?
Okay.
I didn't realize how real some of the parts of Buffalo were until they were sort of describing it to me, you know. And then you think like, oh, Buffalo, New York, you think this, that. People think, oh, the Bills and Niagara Falls and all this other shit like that. Man, you really are starting to get to know their story. You understand just like how rough an environment they came from, you know. And one of the things that what I loved about listening to them when Gunn was in an interview with Complex, I believe it was him, Conway, and Benny, and he said, man, you know, thing is that you always talk about New York. Everybody always go to New York, like, you know, thinking that we from New York City, but now it's like, you know, they kind of switched their style up, but we ain't never switched our style up here. Like, yo, we grind me down to the ground. That's what we doing.
That's a fact.
And what they did was, for folks like me, they sort of harken back to a different time where hip hop had that feel of it being dirt and the grime and it being something that you wanted to revel in. It gave you, I would say, people like us, it gave us red meat, you know? And when you got the excellence and you got the skill from Conway and from Benny, like on so many of those albums, and now many of them like cult classics. And then you could even go to gun stuff, you know, My God, and Hitler Wears Hermes, and all these, like, Pray for all these different classic joints that have come out now. What they did was help to create a cult, man. It really is what it was, a cult following. And that cult following grew as the time and the word got out about them. I give props to them brothers, man, for staying true to who they are and what they do. They've been really successful everywhere they go. Not really huge venues, small venues, but they packing them joints wherever they go. Don't matter where it is. Fillmore and Silver Spring, packed. Don't matter. Everywhere they go. Small venues, 3,000 to 5,000 seats, packed. No matter where they go. They're an example of, I'm going to get in this lane, I'm going to stay in this lane, and I'm going to cook in this lane no matter what, and I'm not going to get out of it. Because it works. It works. And it's good for the variety of the game, man.
Okay.
It's good for the variety of the game. It's something like folks like me have been dying to be able to hear things like this amidst all the other stuff that you hear. And I don't listen to the radio, but all the other stuff that you hear and things that are being pushed out there. Folks like myself came up during the era that we came up with, like, yo, this is the type of shit that we fuck with.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Here every once in a while is this type of shit that I fuck with.
Yes, sir.
So props to them dudes, man, and props to them doing it, linking up with you know, Eminem and Shady, and them having a vision, staying to that vision and grinding through that vision to make immense success. Even though people will look at that and say, you know, yeah, but listen, them dudes have crafted over the last, I would say, 5 to 6 years, just an amazing run that needs to be recognized, considering what we're talking about, where they came from. Because it's Buffalo. I mean, the where you from has a lot to do with it, right?
Come on, man.
So to be able to do that and be from Buffalo, considering that most of us are ignorant about what the fuck Buffalo is, and them letting us know what the fuck it is,
yes, sir,
is an accomplishment.
Because you couldn't say it better. And I'll just cap it off with this. They, you know, I relate to them staying true to themselves, true to being Buffalo. You know what? Hey, we might have a underground cult following, but goddamn it, we're gonna live good and eat good and feed our cult following. Yeah. And to me, man, I just appreciate that. And it has that it has that hunger that you and me, when we harken back to the days of what we heard with X and all that grimy shit, B Cox, that we grew up listening to, it harkens back to that, and it adds to that it gives you that hunger. Like when I listen to Conway's latest album, man, Slam Face Killer, that shit gets me, goddamn it. You know what? Fuck it. Let me go harder, goddamn it. Let me go make 2 more goddamn new videos, goddamn it. I'm listening to Conway before I get to B Cox today. That's how it's gonna be one of them days. So, man, shout out to the boys in Buffalo, man. Much love to them, man. Griselda, man. All them Benny Conway, man. West Side, much love. All right, B Cox, they called us, man. We got to fly to hit to Chicago, brother. Now, and before we land, there was a guy that said, truthfully, I like to rhyme like common sense.
Mm-hmm.
But fuck it, I did 5 million. I been rhyming like common sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I have to start with him first, man, because Common was the first rapper. I mean, you know, of course, him and Twista and all of them, but Common, Twista has his lane as well. But Common was the one, man, that really brought lyricism and he really, you know, took pride in the word play. He wasn't trying to be New York, even though, you be goddamn lying to say the lyrical, you know, excellence out of New York didn't influence us. Hell, influenced everybody. He's gonna keep it a beam.
Yeah.
But you knew he was a Chicago brother. And that's the thing that I appreciated. So, because let's talk about him, but he tends to be the unsung hero when it comes to great lyricists, as well as, man, a statesman for Chicago, man.
Oh, yeah. It's one of my favorites, man. One of my favorites
all
the time. And let me just say this about Common. Common has been doing it for now it's 32 years now. We're talking about the release of Can I Borrow a Dollar, which was his debut album, by the way. But I've been rocking with Common from Resurrection all the way up through now.
Wow.
And his music is it's really interesting, man. The way that he is, when you see the personality and see his style through his albums, and how his style sort of adapts but never really changes all that much, right? From the Resurrections to One Day It'll All Make Sense to like Water for Chocolate, even Electric Circus, into B to Finding Forever. Common is just one of those artists that has, to me, always been consistent, even when he tried to, you know, artistically try some things here and there on a few albums. He's been one of those artists that has been consistent and also adapted without really ever changing much about him. And he's always lyrically been proficient, and then always had the best of the best producing for him, right? And they all gave him styles that fit him. And to his core, as you said, he was 100% authentically, without a shadow of a doubt, shot down till he died.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
And that identity was something that was great for him and great for the city as well.
Indeed, it was.
Because he always represented Chicago. He let people know without a shadow of a doubt that's where he was from. That's what he represents. And with me, man, personally, Common has always come around during a time whenever he dropped an album during an important time of my life. Resurrection drops.
Wow.
Resurrection drops. I'm starting middle school.
Wow.
One Day It All Makes Sense drops during the year when I'm becoming a sophomore in high school, and my sister graduated from high school the year before. So I'm in high school alone by myself. I have to start to create my own identity because a lot of folks knew me, but knew me through my sister. I was in high school by myself, and it was time for me to really make a name for myself, you know, who I was going to be.
Yes, sir.
Water for Chocolate drops during my senior year. One of my favorite albums, not just by Common, but my favorite albums of all time of any genre.
Really? Come on.
Yeah, man. And then B. Well, Electric Circus dropped when I was in college. I mean, I skipped over that one because I wasn't really feeling it that much of the time, right?
I didn't feel that one either at the time. Because
B drops right when I'm getting ready to graduate from college. And that single for the corner drops right during that time. Start my last semester in school. And it did my heart so glad when first the beat starts And then I'm watching the video, and then you see Kanye. And I'm like, oh man, this is what needed to happen.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah,
like
man.
this is the natural progression of what needed to happen with Common.
Yeah,
Common,
man.
who basically started and had his greatest moments being produced by No ID.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Also
sir.
Chicago, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
To have it go from teacher
to
student to complete the entire circle from Resurrection into B was perfect. And if after Electric Circus, which many people saw as a disappointment from Common, to have him really go back, to me, B was sort of the way of Common saying, like, all right, I took my trip to New York to go make like Water for Chocolate. I've set out and done the alternative bohemian sort of the experimental thing on Electric Circus. B was him being like, all right, I'm getting back on the train, going back on the plane and going back to Chicago. Yeah. And me and Kanye going to do some work for Chicago. Yeah. Like that's what it's going to be, Yeah. And so that made my heart glad. But Common to me is someone that when we talk about all aspects of hip hop, and most of them, he's got it. I mean, elite MC. And I'll say that again. If you ever hear Common freestyle, and he be freestyling for real, he don't be doing them. I wrote something down, I'm gonna memorize it, and I'm gonna spit it when I go up the Funk Flex or LA Leakers or whoever else. If you hear Common freestyle and watch him, he's freestyling off the top of the head.
Come on,
off
man.
the top of the dome.
It's a real MC.
He does it without messing up, and he does it without a whole bunch of he continuously goes, right?
Yes, sir.
Elite MC.
Okay.
In his early days, crazy breakdancer. Matter of fact, he tells people that's how we got started in the hip hop, is that he started out breakdancing when he was in Chicago.
That's crazy.
Crazy breakdancer. And you also see the collaborations that he's done throughout the years, the profile that has risen from the stuff that he's done with other good artists like John Legend, and seeing his collaborations with folks like Mos Def and Talib Kweli. I mean, everything. He has been a great ambassador for Chicago's hip hop and also for hip hop overall, man. Indeed. He is someone that we talk about. Someone you say it's crazy, like you sit there talk about Common as an unsung hero. It's crazy for me to even sit there and think about that, man, because we're not having a conversation too far along in hip hop if we're not mentioning at least people saying something about Resurrection, One Day It'll All Make Sense, and like Water for Chocolate at a minimum during that period of the 90s.
Yes, sir.
We're not having a conversation that far along before you get into at least one of those.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So yeah, Common, one of my favorites, man. Listening to those early albums, hearing his Pops wrap up, at least the first 4 albums, and hearing those beats, man, those No ID beats from Resurrection and into One Day It'll All Make Sense, and then to flip to that and go have production from Badilla and Questlove and the likes of DJ Premier on like Water for Chocolate, then to have production from Pharrell and other producers on Electric Circus, and to Kanye on B. I mean, there's not many people you could say. Now, let's now also remember this project with him and Pete Rock. It's coming out.
Boy Wonder.
Yes, I'm just excited to see what that's going to bring, man. Here we are now, 32 years after his debut, and Common is still rapping and still doing it at an elite level, man. We talked about Nas. Like, Nas has been doing it for all these years, man. Common has been doing it with less fanfare, but is doing it at an elite level as well.
Man, well said. Because just to cap that one off, man, one of my proudest moments in Chicago of Common was when him, and no disrespect, look, and we're going to get to the West eventually too. And we're going to talk about this guy. But when he stood up against Q, and the bitch in you, and the Chocolate Boy Wonder said, well, fuck it, I'll produce the beat. Won't nobody else produce it? I'll give you the beat. And man, when Common stood his own, and that Chicago warrior mentality that we all are inbred with in the city, like, hey man, you ain't about to bitch me now, dog. And how he stood his ground, and then just to see the evolution, he tried different things. He had a little Badu in his life, but you know, Erica Badu, she fuck up. Hey, she fuck up all the niggas' heads. That's one woman that I don't even want to look at. If ever Erica Badu ever come near me, I'm turning my fucking head. I said it. I'm not messing with that magic. But anyway, because it's magic.
Hey man, Black Thought and Questlove told Common when he was coming to work on Like Water for Chocolate, they're recording Voodoo and Mama's Gun all in the same sessions in Electric Lady Studios. When they told Common about interacting with Erica, they say, hey man, whatever you do, just don't look in her eyes, man. You know she got them green eyes and shit. Just don't look in her eyes and shit, dog.
And what this nigga gonna do? Look in her goddamn eyes.
Motherfuckers told his ass not to touch the stove, and his dumb ass went up and touched the stove.
Goddamn stove. Goddamn. And she got a graveyard of niggas that looked at them fucking eyes. B. Cox, Andre 3 Stacks, DLC,
J
Electronica. Hey, the great Erica Badu, baby. I can't handle your magic. But lastly, B. Cox, when he finished up with B, he brought that back to Chicago, man. Now I was there at that time. I had moved back home for about 2 years. I was selling my clothes, and I said, "Oh, this nigga, him and Kanye, they eating Harold's chicken, and they back hanging out in the goddamn corner. We about to get some goddamn good music." And it sounded like a Chicago authentic album. So, man, I appreciate you, B. Cox, for appreciating one of Chicago's finest, man. All right, well, I mean, we kind of alluded to him, but. You can't talk about the Shy without this icon that has become. I don't care what nobody say about this man.
Yeah,
he is a music genius and a fashionista, fashion icon. B-Cock, it's so much with this guy. He was a childhood prodigy, and we saw what he's evolved into and things he's done.
Yeah,
but man, how can you even embark on describing the genius that Kanye West is?
I mean, we talked earlier about DMX about it being a story in perseverance. This is a story in perseverance too, man. For the longest while, he fought to be accepted and respected by people within circles that wouldn't give him the time of day. And how he did it was by working mercilessly on his craft as a producer, which got him in the room with the right people. And all it takes is for you to get into the room with the right people. And as long as you get in there and continue to produce and stay in there, ain't no telling what can happen to you afterwards. So for me, it all kind of starts mad with La Familia and This Can't Be Life. To take that track and that sample, I mean, and to make it a song about what they were, what the sample is about, then versus what the song is actually made of with Scarface, Jay, and Beanie is incredible. And then the fact that he took that and was able to use the drums from Dre's Explosive, not just on that, but then also on Guess Who's Back, and then make people not wiser of the wear for either one of them that he did the same exact thing on both of those tracks.
Did not know.
Things like that. It's the music that you hear on Blueprint. It's what you hear on the Fix with Scarface, and then eventually when he dropped by himself. Biggest and most underrated thing that people did, and the worst thing that people could have done about Kanye, was to discount his credit as in cachet as an artist. I did the review of College Dropout earlier this year, 20th anniversary, with my boy Van Everett from Scenario Radio Show. Shout out to Van and his crew from Scenario Radio. They do an awesome job. We described and talked about how the biggest thing that anybody could have done was to discount his cachet as an artist, because a lot of people, let's be honest, a lot of those folks probably looked at him and wrote him off as a, backpacker, conscious rapper, guys who hung around me. Because look, before he got big, look who he was hanging out with. The Qualies, the Most Defs, the Slum Villages, the Dillas, the Loves, the Roots. That's who his audience was. That's who his crew of folks was, we created with. When he got into the game and I said, I'm gonna try to make a go of this as a rapper, whether he wrote those rhymes, all the rhymes or not, which we know he didn't write all the rhymes, but just the fact that he was able to make an album, and for your debut album to be done so well that, as I was saying in the van, I said some of that parts of the College Dropout sounded almost cinematic, right? Like almost symphony like movements of symphonies, right? We're talking about stuff that composers did in the 17th and 18th centuries, right? Like that type of stuff of the things that he composed with those beats. But his popularity was kind of that people saw him and saw that he was kind of a dude just like the rest of us, even though he was a little bit strange, right? He was a little weird to some people, but that's fine because I think most people are willing to accept you if they feel like you're genuine and that's who you are.
That's true.
And that continued because he went on to, as I call it, the Dropout trilogy, which is college dropout, late registration, and graduation, created 3 in a row and went 3 for 3 on albums that still is not many trilogies that can match that, like of that era after 2000. There's not many. And the fact that he was able to go head to head with an artist like 50 Cent,
yeah, man,
on his album and win, considering the fact that many people would say, oh, it's 50 and it's Kanye, it's 50 and it's Kanye, you know. But that's part of the thing I think what endeared us to Kanye is that he was kind of always an underdog and he had to work his ass off in order to be recognized in a room full of people that in lots of cases, let's be honest, really wouldn't give a damn about him.
Come on now, say it.
And what happened is that there are a lot of events around that time. Unfortunately, what you see is that as the bigger his star grew, the bigger his head also got, and then also the unfortunate incidents of him losing his mother and other events in his life led to this trajectory, which got him on the point to where he is right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at what he did. I mean, talk about it as much as you want, man. I think we're gonna sit and look at 808 and Heartbreaks after a while and be like, damn, dog, like what the fuck? Kanye was a part of something that I don't even think he even knew what the fuck he was doing at that time. Right? And using the auto-tune wasn't exclusively done. T-Pain and other artists have been doing it. A lot of artists have been doing it for years. And then Cher made it popular on Believe. T-Pain made it popular through his music career. And then Kanye messed around and made an entire album based off of that. And it helped to start a movement within hip-hop and within music with 808s and Heartbreaks. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And then that drops the brilliance of that. But then after that, things get a little weird.
Yeah.
You know, and then you talked about his fashion sense. I mean, look at it, bro. I mean, his fashion sense definitely evolved over the years, man. As he got into bigger rooms, what he wanted to do in fashion, he was starting to get access to that. And even some people were still shutting him out, right? The big brand still didn't want to be, you know, associated with him. So created his own. Now, where I think he kind of went a little left field is, you know, I still don't get what's up with the Yeezys. A lot of people still got them. They bomb. If you're a shoe head, I guess if you need to have them, you got to have them. And to that, I'd say, okay. I mean, if you like it, I love it, you know, but I never really got the big deal about them joints when he came out with the Yeezy clothing line. And a lot of it looked like, I don't know, rags and stuff that homeless people wore. And then people were like, this is great fashion stuff. My man, Dion, shout out to Dion. When he saw the Yeezy clothing line stuff, he called it a very intricate name. You want to know what he called it, Matt?
What he called it?
He called it Pipehead Couture.
Pipehead Couture. Well, goddamn. That's a hell of a name.
Hey, but listen, I'm not going to lie, though. The brother worked hard in that fashion industry.
Yeah, he did.
To get himself in certain rooms, man. And part of that was sort of the strategic plans that he had in regards to who he was in relationships with. Started with, we knew him, started with Alexis, right? Him and Alexis broke up, got with Amber. Him and Amber were in a relationship. And then eventually he gets with and meets Kim and gets in a relationship with Kim and they get married. Now, I'm not going to doubt whether they loved each other actually or not, but I do know that that definitely at some level was a marriage of convenience, because that is really when you talk about when he went from, let's say 100 to 150, $200 million worth to like being up to the point where he was a billionaire.
Come on now.
Marrying her was a part of him elevating his brand. Now, unfortunately, I feel as though when he married her, the other part of his creativity kind of suffered a little bit as well.
Correct.
Now, there's some people that swear by Yeezus and a lot of people that swear by the life of Pablo and other albums. But to me, it wasn't the Kanye that I fell in love with. The one that made me want to go and put that Dropout in, or late registration, that Dropout in when I'm in the car driving on my aunt's house on the way to Jersey or late registration when I'm sitting cooling around the house getting some work done, or graduation when I want to sit and be in some deep thought.
Come on,
it wasn't the same.
So
as a music icon, yeah, man, he's made his chops. As a producer, what he did was help to put himself in the rare conversation. And when we're talking about some top 10, top 20 hip hop producers all time, yeah, he's in that conversation. When you talk about an underdog in regards to him being regarded as a viable artist that had widespread appeal and then also could succeed on the charts and with sales, yeah, that was him. All that's what his legacy is. Unfortunately, a part of his legacy also is the outburst, the recent stuff with all the stuff with politics, the stuff that has happened with his, divorce with Kim and the stuff with the kids.
Yeah.
The other things that you see now with his new wife and him walking around with stuff, basically covered in head to toe with no open. I mean, her being naked to halfway naked to almost naked to a point where it's like a circus now. Yeah. It's come to a point where now Kanye stopped being about I want to be taken seriously because I am just like you all and as talented as you all, and acknowledge me to being a sideshow. And that's what the sad part about it is now. It's an attention grab, unlike hey, I got really good beats. Hey, I can make a hit album. I can make classic albums I'm doing this shit just because I can. And nobody's going to tell me otherwise. And I'm doing it because everybody's going to be talking about it. And that's nothing but good things for me, my brand, and my bottom line. Our brother took a hit when he said what he said about who.
Yeah.
But for the most part, yeah. Musically, though, as far as when it comes to that run with Kanye, man, with the Dropout trilogy and to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, to me, about as good as any during that time. And it's something from somebody, like we said, that we didn't expect it from because everybody was counting him out as an artist. Nobody wanted him as an artist, man. And Rockefeller took the chance on him. Dame took the chance on him and convinced Jay to bring him on.
Get Dame his props. He did that. Yeah, you're right.
A lot of y'all was talking about some when I was talking about Jay. Oh, Jay didn't make that brand of business. Dame did. Yeah, Dame did. Jay was the pitch man, though.
Yeah.
Wasn't nobody buying Nikes with Bo. Bo wasn't making the shoes, but wasn't nobody buying the shoes without Bo talking about them. So I know that Dame was a driving force behind the business. For those of y'all who were in the comments talking about that was Dame. I get it, that was Dame. But yeah, Jay was on the records talking about Armandale and Rockaware. And that's what was getting people to buy it. Dame was making sure the business was getting taken care of, and Jay was selling it. And that's part of being a businessman, is selling shit.
Bro. So. Wasn't nobody throwing up the goddamn rock because of Dame Dash. Wasn't nobody goddamn it when it's not Carter's because of Dame Dash. Now we're not taking Dame's business acumen from him, but you're not going to discredit Jay-Z's influence he had in that run and what he did. And if you guys don't know what we're talking about, Big Cox delineated hit fairly for both of those gentlemen, Jay-Z and Dash. And Big Cox was one of the few people who actually said, hey, why Dame is built. We're not going to spend time talking about that because guess what? You can go back and watch that. We've already put that work in.
Watch it. There you go. You can go watch. But give Dame his props for helping to get Kanye to that level, because had it not been for him, how soon would we have found out from Kanye afterwards? Would we? I don't know. Kanye would have always been Kanye, but having that spotlight with a brand like Rockefeller, it helps. It helps.
Big Cox, we're about to leave the shop, man, but we can't leave the Midwest yet. We got to go a little further south, man, because they'll have my ass. Because it was one guy in the Midwest that I'm not going to let nobody. Yeah. This guy, goddamn it, you talk about a monster first album? You talk about a monster?
Yeah.
And came out the blue with some with a lexicon, with some goddamn vernacular you ain't never heard before, man, and put on and truly you can say he put on his city on the map.
Yeah.
You cannot take out Nelly's impact with Country Grammar and Nellyville.
Oh yeah.
B. Cox, I'm gonna let you weigh in on the giant that country grammar is and what it did to hip hop. It was a tectonic shift. It shifted shit.
It did. It did. And that was my getting ready to graduate from high school, getting ready to go to college when country grammar dropped. That album dropped that summer. Look, say what you're gonna say about Nelly, right?
Say what you're gonna say. Say what you're gonna say.
Same thing you can sort of say about Nelly, you can sort of say about Ja Rule as well.
Come on.
And let's be honest, Nelly was sort of singing them raps and stuff like that too. He ain't no lyrical monster, but let's not act like nigga Nelly couldn't rap, dog. That nigga could rap. You know,
he could rap now.
He could rap. I'm not talking about some. He wasn't no lyrical beast, but that nigga could rap. Okay, yeah. Country grammar, man. When country grammar dropped, first of all, when that first joint came out, when the country grammar the single dropped,
hot shit.
It was amazingly hot across the videos, the song on the radio. That's what helped really kick the album off, man. But then to drop all the different other singles afterwards on Nellyville with EI and Ride With Me and and Batter Up, you know. I mean, you know, country grammar, Diamond RIA status certified platinum album. That's 10 million plus. Diamond. That's a debut album.
Come on, Peacocks.
Now look, people say men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie, right? And I'm not gonna act like I was the biggest Nelly fan back then. I wasn't, but you know, hey, shit. The shit resonated with people. It did. And not only that, man, that first video, Country Grammar, dog,
bro,
you can't do nothing but put a stamp on your city. But to have them, the way them niggas came out wearing the Rams jerseys backwards, you know, the Cardinals jerseys backwards, the arch in the background of St. Louis, the St. Louis arch.
Man, like, come on.
They sat there and put that city on, bruh. Put that city on they back with that shit.
Yeah, they did.
Really stamp coming out the door off the break. If you're gonna sit there and say, yeah, this is what we are, this is who we are, this is where we are, and then to not be any more blatantly than when they did when Nelly dropped that Country Grammar video, bro. And that started a whole new style too.
Come on, let's talk about it.
You talk the band-aids on your face, backwards jerseys.
You did that.
I mean, that's crazy. So that first album is big. But it's not enough. 2 years later, it drops a sophomore album.
Ooh.
Right? And Nellyville didn't sell as many records. It's only 8 times platinum, right?
Only 8 though, right? Because only 8 though.
So if we're doing the count between the two, right? Country Grammar is now certified diamond. I think it's 10 close to 11 million now. Nellyville's 8 times platinum. We're talking about basically close to 20 million records sold between your first 2 albums. And then let's talk about the singles from Nellyville.
Talk about it.
Let's just talk about the first 2 biggest ones.
Ooh.
Hot in Here, 8 weeks on top of the Billboard Hot 100.
Come on now.
It takes a break, and then the next week after that, Dilemma starts its 11-week run as #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 with Kelly Rowland. I did an episode on the Vault. For those of y'all, go vaultclassicpod.com. I did an episode about the summer of 02. I specifically talked about Nelly's run in the summer of 02. He owned the summer of 02, right? Okay. And that's something considering who dropped and who was big during that summer. Nelly started the summer with Hot in Here and took it and had it #1 for 8 weeks. And then Dilemma comes by and then pretty much closes out the rest of the summer with #1 for the rest of the summer. You wasn't going anywhere in your car that year, listening to the radio and Nelly not be a part of your journey. That's big, right? And that's just those 2 songs. If you want to talk about one of the more popular songs off of that album, it was a single, but culturally, it became a phenomenon because what it did for a brand.
I need 2 pair, B-Cops. Give me 2. I need 2.
Air Force Ones?
Give me 2 pair.
Nelly took the price of Air Force Ones from $90 to $150.
Yeah, thanks, Nelly. He did that, B-Cops. He did that.
Because, I mean, how do you... That's the impact.
That's the
impact. He put the city of St. Louis on his back. And then look at what Nelly did. Gave legs to the St. Lunatics, especially Murphy Lee.
Murphy Lee was dope. He was dope.
Gave room so that Chingy could actually get out there and do his thing. That somebody considered signing him to Disturbing the Peace and have him go out there to have his run, his little short, as short as it was, but that his run.
Yeah, he had a few bangers.
Jaquan having a couple of huge, massive hits that came out in 04.
True.
Jabs. How many other rappers from St. Louis that have followed afterwards?
He did that.
The hardest thing to do as a city, man, as a area, as a region, is to kick the door down. And that's what Nelly did.
Yeah, he did.
And he did it in a way that he had widespread appeal. Off the break, everybody was fucking with Nelly. Not just black people, white people, Asians, everybody. That's how you don't sell 10 million records
with just niggas. I promise you that.
You don't sell 8 in the follow-up with just black people.
Come on, B.I.G.
No, you don't. So what did he accomplish with that?
What did he do?
He accomplished what a very few rappers do in their first few albums. And made it to the point where it was like he was undeniable. He was getting play on the black radio stations and the white ones, the pop ones too. That's how you sell 10 million records. That's how you get a diamond record. And people have their jokes or whatever it is. Like I said, nobody's going to sit here and argue that Nelly's the best. But man, give the dude his props for what it is he did for his city and how he put them on the map and how he created a moment, because he had some collaborations during those times too, where, you know, I mean, it was just, let me put it this way. James used to say he used to run every summer too, man. Go to look at the summers from 2000 to 2004, and I guarantee you Nelly is right there every single summer. And Nelly said this during that Drink Champs episode, or whatever episode. I don't know, was it Drink Champs, another podcast, where he said, man, when I was out, it was competitive on the airwaves. You battling with Jay, you battling with Ja Rule, you battling with Eminem, you battling with Dr. Dre, you battling with all of them. And somehow, some way, he found a way pretty much to top all of them commercially. And that's saying something.
That is saying something, because
only other person who could probably say during that time period that sold more than Nelly was Eminem.
Yeah.
And he's white.
He's white, so he's got
that's not the discount M, right? Because we already know during that time period he put out probably his best music. But let's call a spade for a spade. The only person who sold more albums than Nelly during that time period was Eminem.
Because nothing you said, I disagree with, man. You nailed it on the, as always, brother. I mean, the thing with Nelly, just to close the cap this one out, man, you can't take away that man's impact. It was catchy.
No way. Yeah,
it was influential. You know, he had a mass appeal to the guys, thought he was cool. The chicks digged him, whatever. And when that goddamn video Country Grammar, first of all, I'm like, well, shit, I ain't know the women was that damn fine in St. Louis. I said, well, shit, let me get my ass down to the loot end.
Exactly.
And I liked it because he always stayed St. Louis. He kept the same, her, all them boys, all the St. Louis chicks. Shout out to all them boys, man. I really appreciate their contribution, man, and adding to this, you know, to this thing we love, man, called hip hop.
Yeah, hip hop. Yeah, indeed. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yes,
because we're gonna leave the Midwest, man. We got to get down south. There's some people waiting for us, man. There's some people waiting for us. In the first place, we're gonna go because this guy was the rapper that made me sit down and write raps. Nobody ever knows that, but this guy was the guy who made me. I'm in 8th grade. I heard an album, and I heard some inflections in a man's voice, and I said, "What the fuck is this? And who is that?" And when this man told me in an album called The Diary, I never seen a man cry till I seen a man die.
Yeah.
When I heard this man, when I mean, just Jordan and his voice and the way he pulled me in, I said, man, you know what? I got some shit I want to rap about too now, goddamn.
Yeah. Indeed.
Because nobody, I feel, has ever done the way you and I do it, ever given this man his own breakdown in the segment that Scarface really deserves, man. But we gotta do it. We gotta get an OG his credit, man, as one of the all-time greats. He's in my top 5 for sure. Yeah. Let's talk about Scarface's representing Houston, the career in review, brother.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. And even before we talk about him dropping his debut album, Mr. Scarface is Back.
Yes, sir.
His beginnings with Ghetto Boys and what they did and what their impact was, right? What their impact was and what it meant to Houston, and also that rap scene, which became, by the time I was out of school, became one of the 2 or 3 biggest rap scenes in the country. It was amazing. And what Scarface does, and I talked about it with DMX, and I did mention him briefly.
Yeah, you alluded to it.
His biggest thing and biggest selling proposition is that he is one of the 2 to 5 rappers I say out there. I said when you put him in the category that can make you emotionally feel what it is that he's rapping about through his voice, through his inflections, through what it is that he's writing through the words. Right? Yes, he does that better than anybody. And it's from the early days of Mr. Scarface is Back to The World Is Yours to how intense he was on those records, right? Hardcore, back to his Ghetto Boys roots and everything, to the shift that happened during The Diary and afterwards.
Yes, sir.
Was genius because it was a shift. And when you look at a work like The Diary, man, that is now 30 years old, and that was one of the first albums we did for the Vault when we launched back in 2019.
Okay.
And I said, man, if we're going to do these albums, here's a short list of ones that we got to do from 94. The Diary was on it.
Come on now.
It needed to be there.
Yes, sir.
And whenever you talk to Southern rappers and even rappers from Texas, and they talk about their influences of what made them want to rhyme, and to your point, Mac, The Diary's on that list. Right. Scarface just has a way of being able to connect to people, like I said, emotionally. His voice, the words, it all connects to you to make you feel as though this shit is just not his life, it's your motherfucking life too.
You ain't lying, Peacock.
You know, and I think the point what drew it home is that you saw the Tiny Desk he did, man. When he talked about how when he went in to go do Seen a Man Cry, and how he was there with Mike Dane and N.O. Joe, and they was in there, how he said he was like, he was super high trying to figure out what he was going to do and everything. And he sat there and he said, I knew that when he started saying what it was he was saying, he saw, you know, Joe and Mike Dean's eyes get real big because they were just amazed at what the fuck he was saying during that first verse when he was laying it down. You know, I mean, that's the type of connection that people have when they listen to Scarface, man. You get to that shit. And like I said, the Diary to me was a shift, man. What brought Scarface in from being a guy on a come up to being a star, to eventually being named one of the best. And then afterwards, you get the Untouchables and then my homie, you know, Last of a Dying Breed, my word, you know, The Fix.
Fix.
I mean, you get a run in there of Scarface putting out some excellent work and some of his most candid and emotional work, and stuff that kind of hits you right there in your soul, man. Like, you can tell when artists put their heart and soul into this music. And the one thing you can never say about Brad Jordan is he never bullshit anything when it came to his music, bro.
No, sir.
Never did bullshit anything. So aside from the images that his pen could create to the way that his voice made you feel, to what a way it was that he was saying, his intensity and energy around the music is what helped to endear him to fans as well. All the hood dudes I knew when I was out there, the hustlers, them niggas used to listen to Scarface.
That's a fact.
Poets used to listen to Scarface.
That's a fact.
Intellectuals used to listen to Scarface. It was a wide range. It wasn't just one audience.
That's a fact.
And the fact that you had somebody that had that much dedication to their craft to be able to be good for so long. Now we're talking about all the way back to like 88. Grip it on another level.
Come on, Peacocks.
We can't be stopped with Ghetto Boys, man. These are classics. These are hood classics. I mean, then you take it to there and getting into the new millennium, continuing to put out music, but they're not willing to sacrifice his integrity for this shit either. And him staying true to this shit, really, to get to the point where you're like, I'm not going to make any more music now because I'm not willing to sacrifice my integrity for my music. I have a body of work that is unquestioned through a 30-year career. Therefore, I'm gonna just stop and not make no more music. I'm retiring.
Man, say
I'll still go. Yeah. I'll go into politics. You know? That's what speaks to Scarface more than anything, man. The fact that he could paint these pictures and it could be graphic and hardcore, but then it could be poetic at the same time in some of those later works. I mean, I always say, man, the golden standard to me is still the fix, man.
Come on.
And the depth of that project from one song to the next of what you get from Scarface is just amazing. It's absolutely amazing, bro. And so when you're able to get that type of complexity from an artist not willing to sacrifice their integrity and going hard for the culture, for and of the culture, no matter what, got to give his props to him, man, because you don't get that a lot in the game. You don't. You know,
because you couldn't have said it any better, man. And the faces, Chicago and DC, and Jake Prince said this from Rap a Lot on the Rap a Lot. He said Chicago and DC were his 1 and 2 markets, man.
Yeah.
And
Face is big in DC, bro.
Oh, they
huge.
They love him in DC. He rap about walking down the streets of Chicago and DC, and we Face get it. Hey, man, you'll be hard pressed to get Pac and Face in Chicago, man, man, oh man. But what I want to talk about, B. Cox and Ruffus, and we ain't got to hang here long. But speaking of the fix, you saw how he gladiated with my other 2 top 5 rappers all time, and that was Nas and that was Jay-Z.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only one he ain't never rapped with was Big. And for my top 5, only one he never got a chance to rap with that I know of was Big. But we're not gonna act like him and Pac didn't tell us to smile either.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, talk about a moment, man. And when Smile the song dropped and the video dropped, it was something that shocked all of us. And it wasn't just the video, the visual of that person that looked like Tupac, like it couldn't been him, right?
Right.
It was the content of the song that you heard from both of them brothers in that song, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's one of the moments, Beaker. The great Brad Jordan. Brad Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
All right. B. Cox, we in the South, man. We're gonna kind of go a little southeast now for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm telling everybody now, no, he's not the best rapper from the South. No, he's not. Mm-hmm. But what we cannot take from him is the proliferation of Southern music and how he blasted that shit out. Mm-hmm. And he put this shit on a major level. Mm-hmm. He did it country. He did it with him, his cousin, and four other 5 people who said they could rap. No amazing lyricists, maybe just one of noteworthy talent. Mm-hmm. But this man took Southern Louisiana gumbo and did something with it and had the whole damn world talking about they was body. Because let's talk about that No Limit era. Because man, I was a youngin' getting off the porch, going to the military. And then when that I'm About It came on, man, you bet, hey, they fucked that club up because they tear that shit up in that movie.
Yeah. Man, P and No Limit, that era from probably them early days, man, and when Ice Cream Man dropped, even before then, when P was out in Richmond, California, and then making it back and forth between Richmond out to New Orleans. What P did, man, was sort of set the blueprint for what a lot of people are doing now that didn't have the capability to be able to do it back then. Get his paper, be independent, slinging him out of the trunk, having his own distribution, being able to call his shots.
Come on now.
For his music. And not only that, man, but he really helped to set an identity for that third, as people call it, the third coast. You know what I'm saying?
He did.
Folks from that third coast, repping Houston, repping Louisiana, repping Alabama, Mississippi, like that third coast, he really helped to set part of the identity of what the third coast was, and definitely New Orleans. I mean, look at what they were able to do. They were prolific in putting out product on the street.
Come on, B. Cox.
You could argue about the quality of some of it, but what they did is made music for their people. And you can talk about their people from whether they was from New Orleans, whether they was from Baton Rouge or Shreveport.
Come on.
They were from Jackson or Biloxi
Come
or Mobile or DC. They
on.
made music for their people, right? If you fuck with No Limit, you fuck with No Limit because you fuck with the sound of it.
That's a fact.
You know, Beats by the Pound, Medicine Man made that No Limit sound, gave P some hits, and then they stacked out other artists on that label and they were putting stuff out. P helped to make the world notice Mystical, you know? A lot of people don't understand that Mystical's first record deal was not with No Limit. It was with another record label, Big Boy Records in 95.
Talk to him.
But to be able to go out there and then I'm talking about some in 1 quarter, you putting out 4 or 5 major releases on your record label. And to be able to use the biggest advertising platform at that time, advertising in the Source. Every time you picked up a Source record, a Source album magazine during that time, them pages was filled with them advertisements of No Limit Coming Soon albums.
Come on.
Crazy ass album cover decorations. That was just like ridiculous. But man, you get out there, they had huge radio hits. You talking about it, make them say, how you do that there, you know?
Woo, how you do that there? You go, big guy.
I mean, you see the stuff they put out, cult classic stuff. Magic, Soulja Slim, Fiend, Mack, Mercedes, Mia X.
Big Mama, Mia X.
I mean, they were C Murder. You know, the whole truth. Like, they were able to put out albums, and like I said, they were prolific with it. Wasn't nobody out producing at a rate like they were doing back then. Like you said, they were calling the shots when it came to how they were bringing in their bread. I mean, when they did that documentary about No Limit and what P said, all right, your other record label, these major labels, going to give you this. They're going to give you a big ass advance. But they're going to take all these points. They're going to take your publishing. They're going to take all this shit and everything else. And, you know, hey, you basically a slave to them. The way P was like, yo, you coming in No Limit, when you getting this chain, you getting a bag of money you're going to get with you that you deserve. Don't try. We're going to make the money back. Don't worry about it. We're going to make the money back. But we're going to take care of you on the front end and not bullshit you on the back end. And he was a pioneer in that sense, man, because record labels were screwing their artists back then.
Talk about it, B-Cup.
They were screwing their artists back then. And to be able to do that, man, and to help give an identity to that third coast, to New Orleans, to let the folks know and take a peek into what New Orleans was like, right? The other part of New Orleans that we wasn't even privy to. Ain't nobody know enough about the Ninth Ward, 4th Ward down New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? Like what New Orleans was really like for people who lived there, our people.
We didn't know. We didn't know.
I mean, people could say that they were bigger, man, but if they ain't no Limit in P, they definitely not gonna be no damn Cash Money.
Ooh, I can't dispute that, goddamn.
Now a lot of people say, okay, they were kind of simultaneous at the same time. Yeah, they probably were, man, but Limit was popping first before Cash Money made any type of noise.
That's a fact. On a national big level, No Limit was popping first.
Yeah. And I mean, give P his props, man. As a businessman, he knew how to do it. And, you know, that was what I respected about him. And he always kept it 100, whoever he was with. You know, his artist, you know, he never really tried to fake the funk about who he was and what he was. He never tried to act like he was some sort of super rapper, super gangster, whatever. But he set himself up perfectly.
Yeah, he did.
Laid the blueprint for a lot of people in the South who were struggling to get mainstream media attention because there was a lot of East Coast and West Coast bias. Ain't nobody paying attention to us down here. That blueprint that he had, that he started down there, man, and in interacting with other artists in the South along the way, gave them ideas and helped them to be able to get jump started to do their thing. You know, then you started seeing these many groups and collectives and these record labels starting to pop up in Texas. And then Memphis and in the Mid-South and other parts in the Deep South, where people are starting to understand, like, man, there's a market out here for what it is we want to do. It may just be here, but the market is viable. Even if nationally they don't fuck with us right now. They will one day. but the market is here. It's here. So that's piece of F legacy, man. Is he really, man, gave us insight into New Orleans and independently and being able to get that grind to make their money. Basically doing it from the basic shit out of your trunk to getting a brick and mortar store when they was in California to bring that shit back down to New Orleans, set up shop and do it right. I mean, he laid the blueprint for a lot of people, man.
B. Cox, man, the thing that you said and the thing that resonated with me with P was the guy, he was the entrepreneur that when I was in the military and I said, I can't do this shit. I want to get out. And I read his article in the source. And he was talking about his 80-20 split and putting his people on. And I was like, this guy inspires me, man. I said, you know what? I want to do that. You know, P was the only one I ever heard screaming, Black owned, independent. He was screaming that shit, yelling that. He was telling you, I'm Black owned, independent. You can do it too. I know that I'm not much love to Luke and Jay Prince, but they weren't. Luke was on some other stuff. We appreciate Luke too.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, and we'll talk about him on another show. But Jay Prince, absolutely, because I know he influenced Master P. But as far as being the mouthpiece and promulgating that and letting you know, hey, I'm Black owned, independent, man. You can get this money too. I'm living better than them.
Yeah.
You can too.
Yeah.
And you haven't heard one P artist ever say he screwed him over. I respect the hell out that man for his business, acumen. Shout out to Master P, man.
Yeah, indeed. Yes, sir.
All right, B. Cox, let's get it, man. We're gonna just get in the car and ride over to the next place, man. We ain't got to catch a flight for this one, man. We're gonna